if you've never heard this before. Don't worry, you're not behind. This is why it matters, why we still begin this way. Understanding what we're building before it drifts away. I don't need it to be easy, I need it strong and clear. That's why I start with code before I disappear. Let's talk about notebooks now. Not just a file, not just a script. It's where problems meet intention. Every thought can coexist. You write, you test, you document. You see the logic as it grows, not hidden deep in abstraction, but right there where it shows. Every step has context, every change has a name. This is why it matters when the system gets complex. You don't guess where things went wrong. You can follow every step. It's more than just development. It's how you keep control. That's why I trust the process. That's why I trust the code. And if you're new to this, if pySpark feels too far, I promise it's not unreachable. It's closer than you are. A little time, the right guidance, you'll see how fast it clicks. It's not about knowing everything, it's learning useful tricks. One notebook, one workflow, one place to think it through. This is why it matters, from the first idea to the end. Maintainable, understandable. Build.
So, hello and a warm welcome. My name is Marcel. I'm the CEO and founder from Power Bros, and welcome to our MC65 Con. Today, our guest here is Kai Sauter from Switzerland, and the topic today is Microsoft Fabric's notebook primer for no-code, low-code devs. Hi, Kai, and a warm welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me here and joining me here. I'm very much looking forward to this session. It's a very broad session, actually, because we are diving more into code, well, basically. And I would like to share some slides with this and introduce myself a bit properly first. So forward for Microsoft Teams, we are not using Microsoft Teams today. I forgot to switch this. Actually, usually I'm doing this. But even if you are using now with StreamYard we are using today, or with LinkedIn, you can use captioning, live captioning. If you don't have LinkedIn today, but using another service, you also can use, for example, Microsoft Google Chrome, which also has a captioning, live captioning ability. I'm pointing this out because I'm deaf, so actually captioning, live captioning helps me a lot. So my name is Kai Sauter, or K Sauter. It's up to you how to call me. I'm a Microsoft Data Platform MVP. I blog, and also I'm pretty active in the community. I have organizing the Data DGF user group, which happens on every third Friday in a month. So it's something you can join for free on Meetup. Online, it's only online meetup, so you can join this. This Friday we are having another data teacher again this week. So I'm also a founder and co-organizer of DataBash.live, also an online data conference that's basically is geared towards Europe. It's pretty much like this conference here, but it's about data, so everything about Microsoft Stack. So it's SQL Server, also Microsoft Fabric, and etc. Everything that's actually bound to Microsoft Stack. And I'm also one of the organizers of the data platform DEI virtual group. As I said before, I'm deaf, so DEI is actually something that is still very important to me. So I organize this as well. So please, if you have questions, just ask those questions, and or you also can reach out to me either to Twitter with K Sauter at or on Blue Sky K Sauter Blue Sky Social. You also can send me an email, or you also can contact me on LinkedIn. That's perhaps the easiest way, also my preferred way to contact me, because that way I immediately know who you are, and you also can join me for datadjf.meetup.com, and GitHub also have it, where I sometimes publish also my sessions. So just what are we going to learn today? So, I am aware that you are probably not in this field, so I'm just having an introduction into Microsoft Fabric first, so you have an idea how to work it, what it is, what abilities are, what you can do with it, and some data manipulation basics, so you also understand what we actually can do, or how we usually work with data if we are building a data warehouse or just reports on Microsoft Fabric or Power BI. I myself, I'm not so much a Power BI person. I'm actually much more the backend person. So what we are going to focus is more on the data engineering and data science part rather than the Power BI part. We are also exploring the question what a notebook is. So what a notebook is a bit different. For example, something like Azure Notebook. The notebook is pretty much closer to Jupyter. It's actually the same technology. And I will go deeper in this and explain you what the possibilities are here, what you can do with it, and what kind of cautionary stuff you should look for. I will also give you an architecture primer, so you actually have an idea how a data warehouse is built, how people like me will do just as a basic, simple architecture. So we have an understanding how we want to build this, and also why notebooks are oftentimes the best of choice than no code, low code. I will also show you some examples how you can do this. So you will see this is a possibility, and actually, I'm not saying that no code or low code is something that is to be avoided, not at all. I'm just saying if you have more complex solutions, oftentimes it's easier to use notebooks. So it's really programming with PySpark or PyR or Scala, whatever you prefer to use. Personally, I love PySpark. So we also will see some PySpark, and I will show you how to use it for as a someone who is a beginner and they dive into it. I will also give you some tips on how you can actually start with PySpark journey. So have a very quick introduction, you very quick dive into it and can learn yourself. I will also, as an architecture primer, basically also give you a kind of a solution to log everything exactly what we want. So it's if you have a data warehouse, you, as we will see afterwards, you want to log some stuff so you can actually learn about some mechanism that failed a bit better. So you have a better and easy insight into your solution if you really have some logs. You probably might notice maybe from Power Apps, Power Flow. So you have also some things like this, I imagine. So this is pretty much the same thing, I would say. So also something that is important is of course find errors easily. This is also why I want to log everything and also improve your incoming data governance. What I mean with this, you want to have really uh, the full control of your data. So what that means is also if for your future data, how much data comes into your place, so you have a better understanding how the data uh, changes over time. So I'm speaking about months or even years. So if you, for example, have um, getting more and more data over the years, then you might want to have more computing power for Fabric. So that means also maybe you need to have to increase the costs for it, so you have basically enough power to work with your data. So this is also this solution is also a way of understanding of your future incoming data. So agenda. More the primer for Microsoft Fabric notebooks versus no code, low code, and the architecture primer. So it's a bit of a chapter wise, a bit structure wise, and then we get to a demo. So in the demo, I will show you a lot of things that actually really happens live. I mean, not probably not most of the things I'm not going to do live in terms of executing it, but I may show you some stuff that I executed before. But if you have time, then we still have the possibility to to do this. So yeah, if you have a question, please ask the question via the chat. And we agreed before that my presenters, my hosts, actually will forward those questions to me, and we will answer them. So, what is Microsoft Fabric? If you have no idea about this, if you haven't heard of it before, then just a quick primer to that. It is really an end-to-end solution for data engineering, data science, and also dashboarding with Power BI, basically. So it's a relatively new service that came up in, if I'm not mistaken, 2022. So what this actually means is a relatively young product. It is still growing. Is a lot of stuff still in development by Microsoft. But this is a very strong solution. But you really have an easy, understandable way to get what you want to achieve with your data. So Power BI has been around for a longer time. And Power BI has also been a longer time a web-based solution. Actually, I think it's 2019 or 2018, around that. And software as a service solution was also something that is not really new. For example, Azure Synapse has been also been a solution for that for data warehouses, but it was always a bit a separate part of everything. So with Microsoft Fabric, we have something that actually everything is coming together and working together very nicely and very easy to understand. So it's also a software as a service solution for data warehouses. You have actually everything in your browser, and you can work it that way. You have also Apache Spark. About Spark under the plate, basically. That's basically the core engines, apart from ETL stuff, which I'm talking about later. So the Apache Spark basically is an open source platform that actually has also a quite long history, and has been very successful in distributing nodes for very efficient calculation power. That means if you have a lot of data, you distribute the calculation to the different computers, nodes. So you have the possibility to distribute the calculation that way. You have like I said before, in Microsoft Fabric, the possibility to use no code, low code, to build probably almost everything you can also do in notebooks. Sometimes actually you perhaps even want to mix it. There's also a possibility that it's never excluded. So I personally like to use notebooks because this is oftentimes very efficient, because you really can also profit from libraries that, for example, PySpark provides, and you can use them. But sometimes no code, low code is also a possibility to use and very convenient to use. In notebooks, you have actually the possibility to code not only in Python, PySpark. You also can use pure Python. You can use R or RSpark. You can use Scala and Spark SQL. So it's a SQL. If you know TS-SQL, so that's like the SQL language from SQL Server, then you will likely know most of the things that the Spark SQL provides. There are some differences. The dialect of kind is actually more the ANSI standard than T-SQL, while T-SQL is pretty close to the ANSI standard of SQL. It is not exactly the ANSI standard, but it's actually the extended code SQL by Microsoft. T means transact SQL by Microsoft. So T-SQL is a Microsoft language. The Spark SQL is actually very much, or even 100% compliant with SQL, ANSI SQL. So that's all possibilities you have. You also can use HTML. I didn't list it here as well, because HTML is not really a programming language, but it's also something you can use. And sometimes it can be helpful. So I said I want to give you a primer to data architecture, so we have some understanding and some theory why we want to build things, how we build things in data engineering, or also sometimes in data science. Also to have a data warehouse that you want to use for your data. So what is actually the concept behind it, and why is it maybe so complex? So at first we want to understand that lake houses basically are a very convenient and very nice way in Fabric. In Fabric, we have basically three different kind of database we can use. The lakehouse is the standard way of Spark to use. So we will see it later. I will show you a bit later. That lakehouses basically are special construction of files, a collection of files with special stored files. Actually, actually we have the the possibility of using different of these kinds of files. But the standard file of those of the data lake files is oh, the name doesn't cross my mind anymore. Maybe it was across my mind a bit later. But we will have basically a compressed file, so compress the data compression, so that we have an efficient way to parse the data that's within those files. A data warehouse collects data with historization. So what does that mean? It tries to if you have basically a database, a normal database, usually if you have, for example, CRM, then you usually don't have historization. That means, for example, if your customer's address changes, then you might not have in many databases you don't have the timestamp of when the address is valid until when, and then the next address until when it is valid. This is historization. We are going to deep into this, dig into this a bit later again. And a Metal Lake House is something that I'm using for logging. So also, I mentioned actually we have three databases we can use. There's also a warehouse in Fabric. A warehouse is basically so something that is works a bit like SQL Server by Microsoft, actually. So this is some implementation of, if you will, SQL Server into Fabric by Microsoft. It has some changes. It has some variations. So it's not 100% compliant with it. So it has some similarities to it, and it can be helpful to use the warehouse as, for example, an access layer for Power BI. So if you want to use Power BI, you can actually use Power BI very nicely on the warehouse, and then you have the possibility to access your data like this. What you also have with this is an advantage is you have a SQL in terms of a lot of T-SQL commands that you know from T-SQL are possible and allowed in Fabric as well. The third one is if you have use SQL mirroring, so you can actually see SQL Server, you can mirror a SQL Server and directly into the Fabric and consume the data from there. So let's talk about historization a bit more deeply. It is the definition, I would say, is processing data in order to capture data changes over time. Like I said before, if you have basically an address that changes, you want to know from when to when actually the address was valid. So, or another example is if you want to compare revenue from previous quarters to current year, for example, then you also need to know what kind of timestamps from which moment you are looking at for your data. For example, if you sell a product, then you have a timestamp on it, and on a certain day, even a certain hour, or even certain minutes. If you think about it, if you have a highly revenue is trade, for example, let's say in the stock trading, then you want to maybe go into the seconds. So you have basically release timestamps. Another example we have is if you have a price change of a product. So, for example, if you have a car and the car costs maybe this month 10,000, but the next month is just a bit less. So you also want to have a time span from when to when is the price valid, and from when to when is another price valid. I'm not going too much into this. It's a primer read, but just to let you know, there are several methods to do this. What I've told you about this is now just the quick way and something you can do often. But we have basically usually mainly 1, 2, 3 slowly changing dimensions. So that means slowly changing dimension 1 or STD2, C3, but it can go up to 7 different kind of slowly changing dimensions. But usually you pick one of those three. I think the most popular in the last few years was actually the slowly changing 3, which means you basically log pretty much everything you want to log. So let's go also to ETL, the topic. So if you want to manipulate data, a lot of people think if they have an ETL or ELT, they think basically we have to just write your data from resource to another place, which is not wrong, but is also not the whole truth, basically. Consider the situation you have an address. For example, you have a Bahnhofstraße 100, so that's train station street 100. Then you maybe want to split the house number into an own field for some reason. So this can happen a lot. And if you have this situation, you have to split to find a way to split the street number, so the house number from the street name. But this can be pretty complex, especially um, if you have street names that, for example, or let's say Rue de la Station, that's French in the also street, the train station street. Basically, it's not one word, but multiple words for it. Then you basically have to know, okay, what point do we want to split this? So we have really the question how to split off. This also can, for example, happen if you have names. For example, if you have the first name and the last name, and also last names can have multiple words, especially, for example, if you think about from people from Spain, that they oftentimes have multiple family names, for example. Another interesting example is that it gets often forgotten is that there are quite some countries that actually only have a first name but not a family name. For example, Indonesia has a lot of people in Indonesia do not have a family name, just a first name. So this is also something you have to consider and think about how to handle this kind of situations. So, as an approach, now generally, if you talk about data architecture, we have a data source like I talked before. Then we have a lake house, bronze, silver, and gold. So what that means is basically nothing but the value of your data. So bronze is basically oftentimes it's just the landing stage. It's maybe not where your files or the data is really originates from, but it's just the first place, a stage where your data gets into a database. So usually you don't do any transformation here. You just collect the data here and put it into. So in the second part, you have the possibility to clean your data a bit. Like I said before, maybe you want to split data, maybe the rest with the house number here, that will be here. And in the next part, you would have basically the business structure of it. So the business query, the business logic of it, you would actually have basically the possibility to transport the data into access layer or presentation layer, how it is often called, so that Power BI could be used. Lakehouse Gold, I like to use Lakehouses, but at this point, like I said before, you also could use the warehouse within Fabric. So this is also a possibility you can use. What I'm also doing is, as I said before, basically that I like to log things. So I understand, for example, when did I receive the data and get this into a meta lakehouse, how I call it, basically just to collect the data and know what happens. So if there's some kind of a failure, I understand which place happened what. So also what kind of error happened there. So also in the future, if I have the same problem again, I would know that in the past I had the same problem. What kind of problem could happen here? For example, of course, a lot of times if you transform data, especially here actually, so the most difficult part here is during the ETL or ELT phase, so the extract transformation to load phase or extract load to transformation. This is actually something that is quite similar to each other. So it's actually just the same thing actually. So just the order of doing what is a bit different. A lot of people say, and I agree to this, actually there's no difference, because if you think about it, if you're smart enough to just have some small transformation that is not worth to load, for example, let's say you have a CSV file that you want to load with 100 columns, but you only need 50, and you know that you will never use all 100 columns, then you actually also just can say, okay, I want to only load those I really need and do the transformation later. So, but here, that's not here. I'm saying here is not really a strict rule, but everything is basically allowed what helps. But you should do it in a manner that is logical. So if you, for example, have a bigger solution, it can be helpful that you have really a clear idea on how you want to approach this. There is also a possibility, by the way, to have more stages than just three. Some people say, okay, we need actually maybe 4 or even 5 layers, but generally don't overdo it. Sometimes it even actually can be helpful just to use 2 stages, especially if you have a smaller solution, an easier solution, everything is already pretty much clean and so on, then you actually don't want to use 3 layers. So something is that should be pragmatic and also understandable. If you do exceptions, make sure that you really document this, and we also will go into this a bit later, because notebooks are also a great way of documentation, as we will see later. So at this point, do we have any questions? Okay, seems not to be the case. Then I guess let's go further. This approach obviously has advantages and disadvantages. I already said before, we have the possibility of an easy oversight over data consumption. We have logging loads. We can actually also track data quality. We even can do reports of it if you want to. We also will see this later. We have also data analysis over time. We have the possibility of a faster and easier failure fixing, especially we are using notebooks. And we have a very high quality documentation because we really know what happened, let's say 1 year ago, because maybe, let's say, a failure happens always around Easter. Oh, so then we have to maybe think what happened last year at Easter time. This is also a common complication that we have basically because Easter has a longer weekend for many people, and this has to be brought into consideration sometimes for databases for some reasons. For example, let's say on the, at the, for before Easter or during Easter, we don't get any data because the business is not running. But because it's weekdays, for example, then we will still have an getting error of that actually isn't error because it's just an exception of that time. So what that means, we also have the possibility to go back and look back and see what patterns do we see we had in the past years. Well, there is also disadvantages, of course. We will have lower load speed because, of course, we will use some compute for extra load. We also will need a bit network. We will have so we do calculations, kind of write this in another database. So we have a bit lower speed. Of course, it needs programming knowledge, but we have the possibility to solve this also relatively quickly. I will go into this a bit later as well. It can add complexity as well. So this is also why architecture is important. So within a good clean architecture, you will also have a better overseeability, a better clarity of what happens in which stage. So you have also an easier way to solve a problem if a problem should occur. And of course, the initial workload, you have to set up everything. You have to also think about it, how you want to solve this. So, why a metal leak house? Just generally, a very common problem is here. We have a CSV file, and this is something that really is common. It happens a lot, especially if you have a new CSV file that you get, or a database for that matter. It doesn't really matter what kind of source you have. You read 10,000 of rows, but then you realize something happened here, and I lost 1,000 rows. 1,000 of rows did not land in my target database. So this is a common problem we want to solve. We have like a little lake house for this as well, because this really can make it easier to understand what actually happened. So, for example, we will have the possibility to see quite immediately with some reports, we only received 9,000 uh, rows, not 10,000. Finding errors without this kind of logs can be very cumbersome. So especially if you, for example, have characters in your source files or in your source data that are not visible. One of those could be, for example, tabulator space or multiple space or any kind of characters that are not visible that is inside your code, or a character that actually should not be allowed. Imagine if you have, for example, a phone number, but someone taps in an email address, for example. That also can be something that can cause errors. the last example would be a data type conversation that actually so also date could be a problem. For example, date, let's say 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock that actually can also be read as a text, put in as a text, but oftentimes you want to have a data, so the data type date time basically. So you have the possibility to also search for it better than just with strings. Yeah, um, of course, we want to automate this. We want to solve this problem as quickly as possible. And with PySpark, we of course have the possibility to find this very quick. So, for example, we can count how many rows we have, how many columns do we have you read, for example. So, if we get the data, we usually also um, create a table, and the table defines how many columns, for example, are in there. So if we read something into the stage, let me go back here. If we read here something and we realize we have less columns that we actually wanted to read, or even more. So suddenly a CSV file got broader than it used to be, then we also can get errors here, for example. It's also a common problem. Are there any nulls? Nulls is also very important in terms of data knowledge. So if you have a null within a database, this is in almost every database. This is an important concept to understand. And null means not zero. It doesn't mean empty string, for example, because null is the meaning of null is it's an undecided value. Okay, that, for example, means you have let's say we have a survey, when someone did not answer a question, then you have basically a null there. So it's not decided, the person decided anything. So that's a different situation as in someone tapped something into it, but it's an empty string. Why is this important? Because in computer science, we try to work with information, and information also empty string could be basically information. That's very important to understand. There are actually some very important consequences to it. So, for example, if you want to look for, let's say we have a query, select asterisk from table where column is null, for example, then you will get an error because where is can't look for an undecided value. So that's why you actually need to use select asterisk from table where is null. So you need to do a special function for it. What you also can do, for example, is doing math with null, for example. So this is also not possible because, obviously, if you have an undecided value, you cannot calculate with it. So this is just a basic theory to that. But we also can use collect string lengths, which is also can be important. I said before, oftentimes what you can occur is that you have different string lengths, but you don't see visually the strings lengths because people use space or another invisible character. So this can also be important information for you. If you lock this, you can also calculate this and see find errors that way. Of course, always use DevOps or DataOps. Sometimes it's called out as well. I think DevOps is a bit more the better term because otherwise you end up with SecOps and everything else ops. So DevOps in that way. If you really want to have a specific term for it, you also can use the DataOps for that. So in my view, actually, what I see as a DevOps is you have to plan your solution, you build it, so you actually deploy it. You have also build in terms of software engineering. Maybe you have to deploy it, to prepare the deployment and continuous integration, then continuous feedback. Continuous integration for before testing. Then you have deployment into production, then operate. You have continuous feedback. So you have actually something that you maybe notice with an infinite ribbon, basically an 8 kind of thing. This is basically the same thing, a bit more for the data. To have the continuous integration as well. It could be also go over multiple environments, so you really have the possibility to test. So I personally like to work with 4 environments at least. So that means for devs, so the environment for the developers, then you have SIT, then you have UAT. SIT is integration, then UAT is the user accepted test and the production. So it also can be actually a more layers depend on the solutions. For example, some banks actually have even on top of a user accepted test something like a pre-production environment to test real data before this real data goes then into the production, if they use a masked or anonymized data solution in the previous environments. So important here with the continuous feedback as well, and also to understand what actually happens, is also logging and measure. So it's actually pretty much also the same thing. Again, we want to understand what happens in our solution. We want to understand what happened in terms of measurement. Imagine if you get more and more data, then it can happen that the data load gets longer and longer and longer, up to maybe 8 hours or in 10 or 12 hours. So that means basically your data load will then actually take longer than a whole night. So you might want to understand, okay, what happened. You have maybe have to go to your manager and say, we need actually more power, or we need to improve some solutions, improve some bottlenecks to improve this. And exactly this is why you want to have this. So logging measure here is really important. So do you have any questions so far? If not, I will prepare my screen for the demo. You should be able to see Fabric now. Is this true? Oh, here, exactly. I can see it myself. Excellent. So what we is Microsoft Fabric. We have here just a normal browser, like I said before, and then prepared workspaces. Workspaces to divide your world or the space you work in. So you also have the possibility to have people access to your workspace or not. So let's see, we go to the notebooks primer here, and I prepared here some stuff. Actually, just two items here. But here is a notebook and the illustrative non-working example. We have a pipeline here. So basically, the no-code, low-code solution. That is actually not set up yet. I'm just showing you how you would work if you would work with this solution. Like like I said before, again, I want to stress out this is not a bad thing. It is not something that is something is should not be done. So, but it's actually just one way how you can work with. So what we have basically, if you want to start with a blank canvas, we can, for example, get copy data that's, or a copy job. We can just pick, let's say, um, some data from another database, then you would have to pick a connection here. Or also it could also be another workspace. So you would basically just connect your data from somewhere. So it also could be a file. Basically, doesn't really matter. Copy data is something that we have another possibility. You have also, for example, copy assistant you can use and really pick your data you can use. This is something that quite fairly often is being used, especially regardless if you use notebooks or not. You can also do this in a notebook alone. That's also a possibility. But as you can see, it can be pretty cumbersome if you do this, if you have to do this a lot of times. So you would pick, for example, let's say a SQL Server database, and then you have to configure the correction here and so on. Versus you would have basically a notebook, as we will say later. But we also have the possibility is a data flow. If you know SSIS or ADF, Azure Data Factory, then this is will be very familiar to you. It looks very familiar because it's actually pretty close to what we have been used in SSIS or in Azure Data Factory. But as I said also before, you also can use notebooks. In fact, actually, notebooks, you can also work with this. You can also use several notebooks and push the data from one notebook to another, which is actually a good practice because it also can split the problem or problems in different kind of solutions you are working on. So you really have the possibility to work this. But the point why I'm doing those windows here and clicks here is, as you soon will see, if I do this a lot of times with lookups, and also if I will add, for example, now let's say another activity, if conditions, maybe a loop, and maybe also something from the web, maybe a script. Script is also fairly common actually. Then you will see very quickly this becomes own programming language, basically just with pictures. I've seen solutions like this. For example, in Azure Synapse, we had this solution here that had maybe thousands of those kind of boxes, and also multiple other pipelines, and even construction with different pipelines. So it can get very complex quickly, and also you have to really learn the concept of it as if it was a programming language. So this is something I like to avoid because you don't really want to learn just one language just for this for one solution, but you want to use something like notebooks. And I told you before, with notebooks, we have the possibility to also document stuff. Uh, I'll show you what I mean with this. It's a bit slow now. Yesterday was a bit faster. So yeah, so a notebook is basically really a place where multiple people really can work in it. So you even have the possibility of real-time collaboration. For example, you have the possibility to work on the same file as if like Microsoft Word. So if people have have the same um, notebook open, you will see a cursor over the other person, like also in Confluence as well. So what they are writing, so you really can work together. So agenda. So why notebooks are easier and more efficient. And I will show you some basics for notebooks and when to use no code or no code. So sometimes it can be convenient, like I said before, and we will dive into notebooks a bit more. So you already see why I like notebooks, because we have the possibility to use pictures, GIFs. We can use for documentation and also write stuff in Markdown. Basically, we just can use Markdown, very similar to Confluence. So it's, we have the blocks, those blocks we can use. We have the possibility to also use code. We have the possibility to use links. We have the possibility of using a paragraph name, image, and so on. So we have quite a range of possibilities to document this stuff. Here we have basically a simple uh, data diagram, also so ERD diagram. So we have we see how the data is connected. So for example, we have primary key of location for location ID, and it connects product in the inventory. So we have those kind of connection. We also can document this right in the code where we have it. So we have the possibility also to tell other people that's how I constructed this. So what you see here basically is really a Jupyter notebook. So it's you can also download it here. You have the possibility to save it. You also can upload it if you want. We have can upload it. Let me check somewhere you can upload. You can also connect. Of course, it's the moment connected, but yeah, you have the possibility to upload. I just don't find it right now, but it's the possibility also to upload your own notebooks. Just keep in mind, if you download your notebook, that your notebook may contain data. You can actually purge them, but just keep in mind that your data can be exposed that way. It can also be exposed if someone else within your workspace has access to the notebook, but also can see the data sometimes. So it's, if you work with this, keep this in mind that this can be a data gap in terms of security as well. So protect your notebook as well. So it's also a consideration you have to make. You also have the possibility to open actually your notebook in VS Code. You also can use Copilot. I'm coming back to it later. And you also have the possibility to change your languages, like I said before in the beginning. You have also naked Python, so it's not a PySpark, so this is just the native Python basically, and this can have some advantages. What we also see here is in Explorer is a lake house. So what we see here is are really tables, and I will show you quickly how that looks like. We have just, for example, a normal table. This is a table in, yeah, in this, like this. We have a timestamp, for example, for UTC Bronze. We have also the possibility to see what kind of data types we have. If I now go back to this, see what actually is behind it. Let me do that quickly. Um, how's it is called? Lakehouse Bronze. Let's go into. I think it's in here. So it's done. Yeah. Give me a moment to find it. Here, that should be. Okay. Can't find the lake house here. Yeah, okay. I don't find it right now. Apologize me for this. That's Let's go back here. Maybe I can show you this again later to show you how this really. But the point what I wanted to make is here actually the lake house is really built up with in one folder for each table we have multiple files, and those files Parquet files, Parquet is it called, Parquet files, and this is basically something that consists for each table. And now I'll just confine the lake house here quickly because it's another workspace, but I forgot which workspace it is. So let's go back to the notebook. So again, here is no, let's do that. Right. Let's connect it. So next. We also have the possibility to use keyboard shortcuts. For example, we can really use, now we have a, before we had basically a markdown block. Now we have a code block as well. So we also can use this is now markdown, sorry, but we also can use, for example, Shift Alt and arrow down as if you would work, for example, in Visual Studio Code. So this is very neat to use in work because it really also works like an editor, right? Um, what you also can do is go to View and Shortcuts. You will find all keyboard shortcuts here and see command code. You also can look for it. You also have the possibility to see if something is new. Also can, for example, have line numbers on or off. You have the possibility to see variables if you use a lot of variables, but also have the table of contents. So that's something you also can use. You also have the possibility to use, for example, search and replace with Control and F. Find just within your browser, within something you want to search. Control F, and find the place is Control in H. So you have the possibility here as well. So it's pretty much the same like in a normal editor. Line numbers, I already showed you this. Again, here we also can have line numbers. If you want to have this, you also can have line numbers. This, for some reason, we have to click here and switch it on. So we have this can be very helpful for debugging. If, for example, an error says in the line, let's say 900, we have an error here. So we have a very easy and quick way to find it. I think you actually also can, with Control G, you can also jump into one line number as if it was in Visual Studio Code. You also have the possibility to use colors, italics, bold fonts. I'll show you how. If you basically you have it like in Markdown, you have the possibility to use those kind of stuff. And HTML, like I said before, basically can be used for colors. You also have the possibility to use icons. You have the possibility to use GIFs, like I showed you before. Also, of course, tables. You have the possibility of comments in history, notebooks, settings, and much more. History setting in the upper left, this is here, and commenting together in the upper right. This is something here. We have the history here. We can check the history. Yeah, sure. What question? Has it ended? What has it ended? I don't know. It's not ending. It's actually it's in the middle of the demo right now. So any other questions? Or is it that you can't hear me anymore or something like that? Okay, right. So what we have basically is also a version history directly in here. We have the possibility to check what kind of what changes we have in the notebook. So that's especially interesting if you have multiple people working on the same notebook. So you will see who edited what in your notebook. Yeah, go back down. Right. So you also have the possibility to set some settings for specifically for your notebook. That means, for example, you have um, you can say, for example, you want to have a normal standard session, a high concurrency session. So if you want to have a bit more power, you can have a high concurrency session for multiple notebooks, for example. You can also schedule it. You also you can see the last recent runs. You have the possibility to set up an AI function and also other stuff. So that's actually also quite nice to use. So let's go back here, and we go back here to the code. We can actually have different languages, and for each language, we actually, for each box, you can also say, I want to use another language. For example, let's say you want to use Spark SQL. Then you actually can say just also with this so-called magic command SQL that we are using now. Select from let's say human resources department. We can drag and drop it. Yeah, exactly. So what we see here is exactly what we would expect here, very similar to T-SQL code, like I said before. So the only difference what we have here is limit 1000 instead of in the same statement in T-SQL would be select top 1000. From human resources departments. That would be the difference. So just to point it out. So the difference, as you see, is not that big. So if you already know SQL, and SQL, standard SQL or T-SQL, you will get used it pretty quick. The other possibility we have here is to change to Scala. Then we have just this magic command as for Spark. Then we have the possibility of Spark R. Then we have this Spark R. So you have the also within the one block, you have to decide for one language though. So you cannot mix multiple languages in one block. So you also can write this. This is not something that is fixed. You also can write this like this, basically. Right. Let's go a bit deeper into this. We have basically, I've already run this. Select from the process. This same statement like before in SQL. We can see the data frame here. We see is that df is short for data frame. So we display it here, and if you display it, we get like a table, something like this. We can actually filter it. We have the possibility to use check the column. For example, we want to just to have some columns to see. We also can look for it, search if we, for example, say just a suffix last name. So you just get the basically a filtered thing. So also could, for example, look for this ID 1016, for example. We can also just filter it and find it. Then we will get all hits for 1016. That's somewhere in this table. We also have the possibility, I almost forgot that, I just saw this before, to comment it. I really also like this functionality, because if someone doesn't know what this command is doing, could ask, or maybe even ask, there is an error, can someone help me? You even can tag people with an @ for example. So we have the possibility to also chat with other people with the same thing in a notebook, pretty much like we would use, for example, Confluence. Yeah, but we also have the possibility is we can also create a chart. of this, and have a quick analysis of it. It is very quick. We can also pick the chart we want. Maybe it is something like this, and we get a very quick and nice chart. We also can go much deeper into this, but that would be now going too far for this session. Another possibility is to use Parker. For example, we can use libraries, like I said before, to say heads results. If you know R, then you actually just get some the topmost data that we want to see, and you will get the same thing like in R. So what we also can do is show you this is IntelliSense. Just like in Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio, let's say I want to use Spark. So here I could pick SQL if I'm not so sure about it. And then say select. So you get basically the pick list here as well for human resources department. And then you can also use the same statement again. So we have this possibility as well. What we also can use, of course, is help from Copilot. It's still in preview. If I can ask Copilot to get me, for example, get me the first 1,000 rows of then it would hopefully that works. AI is not always 100% reliable, but we will see if it works. If it does, it will actually generate me the same code. So this is also a way how you really can get into PySpark very quick. So this also it doesn't have to be right here. It also could be, of course, a Copilot in other place like in your browser. The normal Copilot, you will also get this. You can actually also say, "Hey, I want to accept this solution." So it will just get me basically this out. It makes it to read. You have basically here a bit more complex solution. You just have an own variable for it and use it that way. You also so Spark DF limit. This is another method to do the same thing you could do, just the more the Python way. So what you also can do, of course, is use a code snippet if you want to explain in Markdown. You also have the possibility to use the code snippet, so people can just copy paste it and use the same thing here as well. Explain maybe something with some codes. Another feature that I oftentimes really like to do, especially during development, is lock and freezing cells. This is now locked. For example, I can have unfreeze cell, for example, and say, for example, run all above this cell or run this cell and or below and run only the selected code. So within one box, I can say this, but also can say, hey, I want to freeze this cell. And freeze this cell will mean, for example, if I want to run all cells, I can do that in one go, or all cells above or all cells below. But if you do freeze it, it won't run. So it will be skipped. And the other possibility is that you can actually also say, hey, I want to block this cell, lock this cell. That means I can't go in just because like this and write. If I want to write here now, I'm trying to write, then it says the cell is locked and cannot be edited. It can also be helpful sometimes in it can also be helpful if you are in developing mode. If you want to lock something to make sure that you don't write into the same cell. And of course, if you even also freeze it, then you just will skip it and do the same, maybe the same block in a bit different way to test it to see how it changes, what changes, and how fast it is, how it improves, or maybe it gets worse. Then you can also test it with different cells. So here we also have the possibility to export your cells here. So in this CSV, JSON, XML, this can also be very helpful if you want to give your business, for example, just a test, just a quick look at your data you did so far. Then this can also be very helpful. So next, we have the possibility of some tricks like picking variables. We have we can use widgets, so-called widgets. We can also, for example, say we can, something like this. So we can also have just a slider and define some variables. So for example, if a business person or if you want to have some quick checks, quick picks, you also can use something like this, or also very nice, it could be a calendar date pick. For example, I want to use for tomorrow or another date. This could be a very convenient way how you pick dates. There are other possibilities. You can also have a box that basically you can really select one or multiple kind of variables you want to check. So, are there any questions so far? Do we want to have a quick break for 5 minutes?
The Microsoft ecosystem is evolving faster than ever. Copilot, Power Platform, security, modern work, Azure AI, new features every week, new opportunities every day. But learning is scattered. Events are expensive, limited, and difficult to access. That changes now. Welcome to M365Con, the world's largest online Microsoft 365 convention. 2 powerful weeks, 1 week of workshops, 1 week of free global talks and keynotes. Build your own learning path with expert-led workshops. From Power Platform to security, from Copilot to Azure AI, you choose what matters to you. Then join over 60 free sessions with most valuable professionals, Microsoft trainers, architects, and innovators from around the world. Meet the community, explore the virtual expo, connect with experts, and be part of a global Microsoft experience. Accessible, global, interactive, and designed for every Microsoft 365 professional. M365Con, your community, your learning path, your Microsoft 365 future.
Hi, I'm Sean, and I train people to become Power Platform Solutions Architects. If you're watching this, you know Power Platform, but be honest, when you're building a solution, are you using the best tools to solve the problem, or just the tools you know? If you love building powerful, scalable solutions that make your company money, let me share why our training is different. We've noticed that the best architects know a series of best practices and they apply them to every project. So we took all these best practices and put them into this course.
Welcome to Power Bros Knowledge, where Power Platform meets pure innovation. Your business runs on chaos, approvals lost, data scattered, time wasted. We know that pain. Now imagine automating everything, faster, smarter, and built for impact. That's where Power Bros come in, architects of digital change. We don't talk trends, we build results. Our Knowledge Hub turns expertise into action, real tutorials, real automation, real impact. Whether it's Power Apps, Automate, Logic Apps, or Entra, we make it work together, smarter. Join the Power Bros movement, 30,000 professionals learning, building, and sharing every day. Ready to transform your workflows? Book us now, and let's build something legendary together.
Ever hit mute by mistake and cringe at yourself? You're not alone. Microsoft 365. Life is full of those embarrassing moments that make you wonder about your technical competence daily, it seems. Welcome to M365, our show, where we dish about Microsoft 365, the good, the bad, and the utterly confusing experiences that leave you questioning its true potential daily. No scripted lines appear here. Just real people share their real opinions, and occasionally someone asks, who changed that particular setting again? With visible frustration and confusion. Imagine a show with no slides, no buzzwords, and no screen-sharing panic attacks. Just genuine human connections and meaningful conversations that spark new ideas and foster collaboration effectively, always. That's us. Live relaxed and a little unpredictable, just like your chaotic workday mornings, where coffee is essential and deadlines loom, making every minute count and sanity a precious commodity always. We chat about the latest updates, what's busted, and what got renamed. Again, sharing laughs and frustrations over coffee, diving deeper into the changes that matter most to us all daily. And yes, we read the chat, even the turn it off and on again jokes. We cringed, we chuckled, and we felt seen. The humor was palpable, the memes relatable, and the nostalgia was real, making us smile more. Born from the M365 ConNet community, M365.show feels like that honest hallway chat after a session. You don't need to be a pro or have all the answers. Just bring your genuine opinion and humor naturally, and be ready to have fun along the spontaneous journey together, always with others. Our vibe is authentic, sometimes delightfully quirky, and always straight from the heart, reflecting genuine emotions and personal experiences that resonate deeply with our audience and create lasting connections naturally. If Microsoft 365 is your daily companion and you enjoy learning with a laugh, you're in the right place with engaging content that's both fun and informative daily. Join live, jump into the chat, engage with others, and watch live coding demonstrations at m365.show, because apparently someone completely forgot to mute their device during the presentation.
So welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the break like I did. And so for data analysis, there are also several methods. We saw the table view, we saw the charts, but let's go a bit more into the table view, because I did not show you yet that actually you also can sort it here, right here, pretty much as if it was Excel. You can actually really say, for example, sort to small to largest. You also can copy the column name if you want to copy it. For example, for your business, you want to show something, you also have the possibility for that. Also, if you have a longer column, I mean, in size, the string is longer, you also can have the possibility of the resize. So you have the possibility to just to sort it. And if you click on one column, you also have the possibility to see a histogram of your ID. Here we see, for example, we don't miss any data. That is very good. We have a unique, all are unique, which is supposed to be because it is a business entity ID, which means it's a primary key. Usually that should be actually unique. You also have the possibility to here change it with the bar, pi, column, and histogram. So you have the possibility to change that. Let me show you, for example, for title. We see here, for example, we have missing values. It's actually quite a lot of those. So it's only like a bit more than 50% really have values. So 41% of data are missing. We have a low uniqueness, so that can be very very convenient and quick to see understand your data. So it's I mean, those were now very easy stuff. But now we also can do it a bit more complex if you wanted. If you wanted to see, for example, how many people actually survived, then we have the possibility to also, for example, set minimas and say very quick and easy, quick. Um, Research digging into your data. So you have those possibilities that you don't really have in Excel, for example. You also can use, like I said before, also you can really use data wranglers. So you have also, I mean, you can use libraries. In this case, we have the possibility to use something like this, that is clean data and copy. So we have we drop NA, that means the empty empty age. Yeah, we can see here we have age here, for example, and we have nulls here. Here we have basically null as a string. We can see this because missing is actually here not as null. We also see this. It's you also have a skewness for statistics. As a mean, we see the data is pretty skewed here in this example. But we also can drop data very easily with this, with a new data frame, and just put it up. So we actually correct this with, we don't see any nulls in anymore. We just dropped it here. So we have a very easy data cleaning possibility with Spark. But we also want to see basically our recent runs. So we have the possibility of see here schedule. We can schedule something like this. I told you before in ADF. So in the pipeline view, basically we also can start notebooks, and this is one way we can do it. We can also do it, add it to the pipeline directly from here, and add a schedule, for example, and say we want to have every, let's say, day. We want to have started maybe in the morning of 3 o'clock, another time maybe, and starting time and end date of the time, even if you want to have an end date and select the time zone. Yeah, we now we are basically in the error handling, and what I like to use in the error handling is that we use links. Links are done basically that way. We have basically the possibility to, as I said before, HTML. if you have HTML, then we just can use appfabric.com, for example, in this case, and click on it. You will see that a bit later in short while, basically. And it's web coding with Copilot. I showed you this already. So that's something I will skip for the moment. And so get very easily context information. What we can do, for example, is use a notebook utils, which is a library that's provided by Microsoft to run other notebooks. So, for example, if you have a notebook and something happens, you can actually trigger another notebook with that. So that notebook could also collect information for you. So we also see here quite some data here as an error. I'm not perfectly sure what happened here, but it's an older run. I think that's something I actually wanted to show here, because if you have an error, it can be that it can be a bit cumbersome to find out what kind of error you have. I told you before, we have basically line numbers here, and here in the line number here it tells me that there was actually a mistake, so an error. So we can actually just check out here we have had an error somehow, and but still we have a lot of error output we get, and this can be quite cumbersome. So now I'm show you how I solved this problem with a real code example that is actually also on my blog, kai.com. You actually can download this, see and check the code and adapt it for your own problems. What we have here is at first we import some libraries. We want to use monotonically increasing ID, which usually should, by the way, not be used, but for a demo, for the demo purposes, very easy increasing IDs. This can be used to make sure you understand this, because if you use this, you have to be aware that monotonically increasing ID means it does increase, as you can see here, it does increase, but it's non-deterministic because its results depend on partition IDs, right? So it does generate you increasing 64-bit integers, but it's not guaranteed that the numbers are connecting in like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but it could be 4, 10, 20, 30, something like this, but it's still increasing. And it can actually also lead to strange situations, like you would expect maybe 100, 101, 103, and then it goes to 20 million, something like this. So keep this in mind. This is not continuous, but it's actually just monotonically increasing and unique, but not consecutive. It already says here in the documentation. So this aside, as a quick demo here, this is very easy to use, because I used CSV folder in the file. This is now in another workspace, but just here folder use the files here and get a list of the file of a list of our files. This is basically also notebook utils, like I showed you before. This is also a possibility that notebooks Microsoft provides to parse your space. Basically, I'll show you what I mean. We have here items, and we have the possibility to add here existing data here, just the folders that basically you could pick. So you have also the possibility to access one lake catalog, but also have the possibility to have within your workspace, you have the possibility to have folders, which I here right now don't have, but this workspace. But you have the possibility to have several folders as well. And this is basically what this is really as well as doing. So what we next are doing is filter just for CSV files, for the ending of the files, and then we define a schema for log data frame. So schema for the data frame. So we have a struct field. This is how we can do it within pySpark. We also have the possibility to have another data frame that's for the malformed schema, because we want to collect data that actually went wrong. And what we can see then in the end is that we will see in other notebook really the output of it, what went wrong. And we initialize some empty data frames for the defined schema. So we apply the schema for data frames, and then initialize the counter for warnings and so on. And now the counter files, because we want to know what kind of which stage we are in. Basically, let's say we have hundreds of files. We want to see which stage actually the file is. So this is maybe the 50th file we are processing right now. So we already know that basically almost 50% of all files have been processed. We will see this in a bit later as well. And process each CSV file, then I'm jumping here a bit. This is something I really want to highlight, because here basically what we do is permissive, so we capture everything. And we have basically reading Spark read options. So we capture the data frames that we defined before for everything, and we capture just what we captured with the proper formats. So we have the possibility to get a diff. So this is what I said in the beginning. Basically, this could make your code a bit slower, because you have a bit more calculations to it. This is basically, if you will, a bit disadvantage, but it pays out very quickly, because if you have this, you really find out which rows did not get read actually. So you have also a much easier time to find to find the problem. I will just jump here a bit and point out that I have also print with different colors. This is for the well-formed records. I think this is now green. Exactly, this is green, and this is red. So if you have an error, you actually point it out as errors. Let's go to the actual code. What we want actually to see is, we will see, like I said before, is being processed, remaining files to process 59. The password of this amount of lines, personal password has this amount of lines. So we see how many lines of data we expect in a file. We will see how many well-formed rings that actually went well. So we have no well-formed lines. We had no errors at this point. And we see also has data table. The difference we are now also 19,972 lines we have. So this was a complete success, as now to the contrary thing, we will see we have basically a problem here. We have 4 lines only amongst 20,000 of lines that were a problem. And then exactly those lines we get out also into the middle lake house lake, because we want to know which lines actually were a problem. And in the end, we also will get a summary of everything and see all CSV files were loaded, but with a warning. Sometimes it's just a warning with yellow. It can happen that it's just a warning something was processed well, but could be a problem. That's why we have a warning as well. But we also have malformed records that have been written to the mid-only house by the records table. And the number of tables with warnings is one. In this example, we only have one. But we also have the possibility to just click on this notebook and investigate the issue, which I will do in a second. I just want to give you an overview for all table nodes. Like I said before, we also can have the possibility of using icons, so emojis, and this is exactly what I'm actually taking advantage of. So we have the possibility of check. We also can sort it. We have the possibility to check on it and see, okay, we have those that actually have the problem. We have a different of 4 amounts, 4 rows. So we have a very quick overview of this. You also can check if the capture everything. In this case, get captured. We also see when those were captured with date and time. So we even could actually get the context information, what kind of notebook it was, who ran this notebook, and everything actually what we have. So we even have the possibility to redact stuff if you wanted to, if you have sensitive data to put it also into the Middle Lake house, and also see who did run this notebook. So just very quick, because we are running out of time. But now let's jump to the other notebook. That's like I promised. So do we see it? So perfect. So now we have a different notebook open that is for the investigation for malformed load error cases. What this does is to help us to identify what exactly happened, what was the error. And if you remember in the beginning when I was talking about the ETL stuff, that a lot of errors happen because we have some characters that are somehow not allowed or can't be processed for some reason. And this is exactly what is happening here and what I'm going to show you. And we see, for example, this, I also have run this before, and see here we have had a problem with this file, because I defined we should check path of this file. We know this file was loaded, and we want to check this basically. This is something we can do here and see, immediately can see what we have this with the lake house. This is another lake house. We have here as well the tables again, bad records, log pros. We have the files here. This is the files. was talking about before. It's empty in this case. But here what we have is really the extract of those four numbers we have. If we check those four, we can see pretty quickly that here we have a problem. If you check those column numbers, the headers record, and notice, of course, what happened. And then we have demographics. We have row GUID, and we have, instead of a number or a random identifier, we have text. And if we check a bit more closer and click on this, we'll see we have XML in it. XML is very prone to such kind of errors. So it's likely just some character here that actually did cause the failure. So we have to have an error handling for this kind of data, especially for those cases, for either that or we delete those. There's also a possibility sometimes it's done that we just delete those four records if they are not important for some reason. We also can delete those and get it out, because if this is not as defined, then also might want to just delete it. But usually we want to read it in, but then we have to fix that. We also have the possibility to check the bad records table to see all bad records, including from those for an older incident. So if you want to see what happened in the past, let's say a year ago at Easter time, for example, then you have the possibility to check this with a timestamp and just go back in time and see we have, for example, also Chinese characters we had or other kind of problems we had in the past to identify. You also have the possibility to check the load log for overview. So if you want to have, for example, a Power BI overview for a dashboard, what is going on every day, you also can do that and see the log load. That is helpful, for example, if you, for example, want to see over time, did your data load increase over time? For example, your business is doing so well that you get more and more customers over time. The load of your customers size goes up and up. So you have maybe to also adapt your code to improve your speed, or even maybe you want to adapt your computing unit so you have more power for your fabric. So with this, this session is over. Do you have any questions for this? The question here now is, how can notebooks be structured to support team collaboration, reuse, and versioning in Fabric projects? That's a very good question. Now, this session was specifically designed to only look at notebooks, but we also have the possibility to use Git. We have the possibility to use Azure DevOps, for example, and we also have the possibility to use environments. So we have the possibility to have deployment pipelines. I did not prepare this for this use case here right now, but let's see what here actually is, because what we can do is we also have the possibility of different pipelines. We have a deployment pipeline, for example. Here we also have the possibility of Git, and also, of course, the possibility of using branches, for example. So you have the really also the possibility to push it forward to each pipeline, to each environment. So we have this here. This is our older lake, also older workspace have been used. We have the possibility to really work together with commits, and also to work with changes. So this is a possibility. That's one possibility. Another possibility is that we, like I said before, within notebooks, you have the possibility of, let's go back here. And if you want to have comments, you can have comments here and ask, for example, and say, for example, let's do it a bit more extensively. And let's say we have here, let's say we want to comment this, and we have new comment, exactly. And for example, hey, Kai, and here I can then say, so for example, then I will get actually also in a message. I think over here I would get a notification that would actually, when I enter Fabric, that I have to read a message in development, and I also can go there and check. This is something I want to check. So if I open this and just go here and reply, or maybe go to edit comment and also say reply to this comment. We do that quick. So you really have two ways to do this. I hope this answered your question. Another question. So the question is, how do Fabric notebooks fit into modern Power BI architecture, so semantic models, direct lake, and data flows? Right. Like I said in the beginning, we are not, also this session, I'm not talking about Power BI, also because I'm not really a Power BI person. Power BI, however, is actually the front end. So those technologies you are talking about is not really the backend. So the backend, the data engineering part, is for data warehouses, for example, is more something you will do for data warehouses before you eventually access with Power BI. So this is a split. It's the modern Power BI architecture is not necessarily something conflicting with the architecture for data warehouses as I just pictured it. Is actually complementary to it, because the Power BI architecture, so is the star model, what you want to have in Power BI, could be prepared in your backend as well. So if you want to create dimensions, for example, in a warehouse database, then you have those dimensions, and you already can use also it in the Power BI. But if you have a smaller solution, a smaller database, for example, you actually, you can do a lot directly in Power BI. But that's not always the case, depending on the amount of data and the scale of your solution you have. Any other questions?
So I think where was it with questions? So thank you, Kai. It was a really impressive workshop and demo. I learned a lot. So I'm not a Fabric guy, and for me was it a little bit as a mixture of OneNote and Power BI. It looks like really, really cool. I never seen it before.
Action was good.
Some of really, really good. So for today, we are on point. We are on point. 2 hours now, and we're coming to the end. So I want to thank you. It was very impressive. And tomorrow we will have a paid workshop with Ridwan Adekanye regarding to building responsive dashboards. Yeah. And the last words to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and have a nice day.
Yeah, have a nice day too. Bye-bye.
The Microsoft ecosystem is evolving faster than ever. Copilot, Power Platform, security, modern work, Azure AI, new features every week, new opportunities every day. But learning is scattered. Events are expensive, limited, and difficult to access. That changes now. Welcome to M365Con, the world's largest online Microsoft 365 convention. 2 powerful weeks, 1 week of workshops, 1 week of free global talks and keynotes. Build your own learning path with expert-led workshops. From Power Platform to security, from Copilot to Azure AI, you choose what matters to you. Then join over 60 free sessions with most valuable professionals, Microsoft trainers, architects, and innovators from around the world. Meet the community, explore the virtual expo, connect with experts, and be part of a global Microsoft experience. Accessible, global, interactive, and designed for every Microsoft 365 professional. M365Con, your community, your learning path, your Microsoft 365 future.